All right, so let's get on with it with our topic today. My name, as some of you know, is Julie Bogart, and if you're new to the Brave Writer broadcast on Facebook, I especially want to welcome you. Please put your name in the comments, and when this is over, I always go back through and I look at questions and I welcome new people. So please make sure you introduce yourself, tell me where you're listening from. I also really appreciate it when you share the broadcast. That is how we get the word out about this lifestyle of learning that we all value so much. So please just hit the share button and let your friends know that I do this every Monday at 11:30. It's just something I do because I love it. I don't have to do this. I have other things I could do in my mornings on Mondays, but I love connecting with all of you. It's how I stay engaged and connected to the community. And one of the things that came up this morning in Brave Writers staff meeting, we started talking about this Olympic guide that we created, totally free. Just go to bravewriter.com and you can download it right now, is the way that we have brought the subject matters, the subject areas through the Olympics. And we all started talking. How is that possible? How does that relate to Brave Writer's lifestyle of learning? You know, Brave Writer, baked right into the title, is the word writer. And so you might be tempted to think, well, she's about writing. She's not about science. Brave Writer isn't about math. So I'm going to get writing over here, and then I'm going to run over here and get math somewhere else, and then I'm going to bring in geography over here, and then I'm going to look at physics over here. And we sort of forget that literally every single subject has a vocabulary and requires some kind of writing, some kind of transcription skill. Think about mathematics. Do we do all math in our heads? Do we just read about it in a book? Or do we get a sheet of paper and we do our calculations and mathematical notations with a pen or pencil or keyboard? Most often with a pencil in the homeschool, right? That's a writing skill. That is an annotation skill. That's a transcription skill. And my son Liam, when he was really struggling with dysgraphia, he was no more able to do his math problems on paper than he was able to do copy work on paper. You hear what I'm saying? In other words, when your kids are working on math, they are simultaneously handwriting. They are working on neatness, ordering the digits, making sure that when they are showing their work, you can follow their thought process. How is that not writing? It's exactly the same thing when you're using the alphabet to communicate ideas or words or thoughts. And yet somehow we treat math like it's over here in its own silo, and writing is over here, and never the twain shall meet. And yet a kid who's struggling with handwriting is going to struggle with both subjects. And the temptation might be to assume that it's a math problem, and then a writing problem, and then an overall learning problem, when maybe all it is a tired hand or a struggle to master the pencil. So when we're thinking about learning then, and we're thinking about writing, I want you to start appreciating how writing is the foundation of every single subject you're teaching. It's not its own subject siloed away from the others. It's literally the ground of being for learning. So you don't learn writing so you can pass a class or write a 5-paragraph essay. You learn about writing because that is your door of access to every subject on the planet. It's how you learn about it. You have to read writing. It's how you express it. You're going to write essays, papers, mathematical equations, scientific reports, business emails. You're going to create an oral presentation that uses PowerPoint or Prezi or Vimeo. Every single aspect of your child's education is bound up in the skill called writing. Not only that, every single field has its own vocabulary. Every single one. There isn't a single field you're studying that takes from the other field. In other words, math and science might have some overlap, but when you're specializing in anatomy, you're using the language for anatomy. And when you're specializing in trigonometry, you're using the vocabulary of trigonometry. And mastering vocabulary equals depth of education. You know how when you go to the doctor and you sit there and you're like, well, I have this ache over here and this pain over here and I lose my appetite and then I find it hard sleeping. You know what your doctor is doing? She is translating each of those experiences into medical language in her head. She's like, oh, an ache in the stomach accompanied by reflux might have something to do with a rupture in the small intestine. But you're just over there going, my tummy hurts, right? She is taking the insufficient language that you have and she is translating it into that enriched, deeper, more precise vocabulary, which is why she gets paid the big bucks and you pay the big bucks, right? She gets paid because she knows the vocabulary with so much more precision and she knows what all of those ideas actually translate to in your health experience. Have you ever considered that when you're teaching psychology, science, math, you're actually enriching your children's vocabulary. You're expanding it beyond just a skill set. Remember when you taught addition and subtraction? What is one of the first things your kids have to know if they're going to do problems on a piece of paper? They have to learn the punctuation of mathematics. They need to know that a cross like this is a plus sign, and they need to know what a plus sign does. When they see that sign, what does it mean? Well, how is that different than teaching a child what a period in a sentence is? It's no different. You are helping them to have mathematic literacy. You're helping them to read math. You're helping them add a whole bundle of symbols to the abstraction that language is. And then you're giving them the meaning so that they can make good use of it. How many of you are just like, we need to do math today? You sit down, you show your children this set of problems, 3 + 2 =, and there's a blank. And you know, partway through your kids get tired and you think, why are they tired? Well, because the equal sign and the plus sign are new to them. And after 4 or 5 problems where they're having to look at the 3 and then the little plus sign and then the 1 and then these 2 parallel lines and then a blank, wears them out. It's not automatic to them. Just because you pointed it out once doesn't mean that they have mastered it. How much more true is that when we get to fractions where you have to flip them over and you have to divide and multiply and think about common denominators, and you're looking at these lines in the middle with 1 digit on the top and 1 on the bottom, and now you flip it over and then you've got to do other processes that aren't even clearly inherent. So you move it over and you now use a division symbol when you really meant multiplying. I mean, that's some serious literacy going on there, right? Think of all the digital literacy your kids have mastered that you're still floundering with. They know on the Wii controller, you know, what the A does and the B does and the joystick does. And you're like, wait a minute, what's the B again? Does it make Rayman hop over the fence or go under it, right? On that Xbox controller, I never got good at that. Do you hear what I'm saying? You can hand your child an iPad and they'll open it and find programs and know what the little X means and know what it means when it wiggles. This is all literacy. This is all the vocabulary of a field. And as you are an instructor, while you're a home educator, while you're using these writing tools like copywork, dictation, handwriting, free writing, well, all of those exist in every subject. They just have their own form. When you're working on math, it looks different. You use graph paper. You have, you know, a horizontal line that divides the problem from the answer. When you're stacking up like multiple digits adding and you have to keep moving over, you're indenting. Don't we indent for paragraphing? And when you're filling out like the scientific method for science, Aren't you organizing your thinking around the primary question, the first data point, and then explaining what that data point means? Isn't that like writing an essay? I want to invite you to consider all the ways that writing is the core understanding of any subject area. It provides you with the springboard for understanding everything we learn. And yet somehow in school it gets siloed over here. Okay, you're either a good writer or a bad writer. Well, what if you're just fabulous at math? You can literally read equations and then write them. You're a great writer. You're a much better math writer than I am. I can't do that. You know how on The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon, the true genius, will walk in and see a whiteboard of all of this math, and he'll just suddenly say there's a mistake on line 3? Well, that's me with reading a page that has a typo in it. But I can't do that with math. I can't just look at problems and notice something out of alignment because I'm not as fluent in that language or that vocabulary as a mathematician is. You know, some people can do that with music. They can literally read music so well, they can hear the song playing in their ears just by looking at the notes on a page. Think of the level of literacy going on there. That's also writing. We call it songwriting for a reason. It's a composition just as much as writing an essay is a composition. It's this ability to marshal the vocabulary and the abstract symbol language of your field into something other people can read. So when we're teaching writing, it's not just this little siloed idea over here. It literally has play across all subjects. And if we start thinking of writing that way, maybe we can move away from this temptation to say, well, my child's not a good writer. What if we could show our kids that they are good writers in fields that right now they didn't know revealed their writing skills? Like math, like scientific notation, like art, like drawing, like geography, drawing maps, creating a key, being able to show a mountain range versus a plateau. That's a writing skill. That's another whole vocabulary set. What if you started with your child's absolutely professional skill level on an online game? How much vocabulary did they have to master? How many abstract symbols? How many sequences? How much reading is going on when they're looking at the screen? You know, I was saying the other night I was watching basketball with my significant other, the man in my life, and we were on a different channel than we usually are, and suddenly I could not find where they were noting the timeouts. And I was looking at their little tablet, you know, template that had like the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics or whoever they were playing, and it had the score. And normally it would have like these 3 little lines for timeouts, but they were using dots. And then the possession arrow was in a different location. And then the minutes and the score were not quite where I was used to them. And I sat there thinking how much literacy you have to have as a sports fan to understand the interpretation of timeouts, time left in the game, time left in the quarter, points scored, why it goes up by 1 or 2 or 3, when the possession arrow changes, what a jump ball is. All of this is organized on just this tiny little tablet. Every sport is like that. We were watching curling last night on the Olympics, and it would show like those big stones, you know, with the handles in the right colors for each team, and you would know that meant how many were left. Although I didn't know that until I watched the game for a little bit. But I'm habituated to a sports vocabulary, so I could become multilingual much quicker watching curling than somebody who never watches sports. Because I'm used to the way we organize visually the system of the rules and how the game is played. I want you to sort of pause and consider how fluent your kids are in vocabularies that you haven't cared about. How much reading is going on when they are learning how to see another system of language. Yes, someone's mentioning figure skating. You know, Tara Lipinski and Johnny Weir keep reminding us of what the little green, yellow, and red boxes mean, because that's new this year since the last Olympics. And now we need to understand, what does it mean to watch the technical score accrue? And they keep telling us what it means because we aren't literate yet. But by the end of these Olympics, oh my goodness, we'll be saying, look at that. Her technical score should have gone up by this much if she had hit that trick. Because we're being educated in literacy for figure skating judging. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? One of my professors used to say, a PhD is just the best vocabulary in a field. And I really took that to heart. I started to understand that what we mean when we say we're educated is that we have a depth, a proficiency in the field's tools of communication, whether that's writing or notation or annotation or language, and how we marshal that language to get the results we seek. And the better we know that field, usually the more proficiency and interest we have in it. So what if this week you just took notes? Where is my child fluent in a language I failed to appreciate? Where's my child developing fluency? It could be quilting, woodworking, recipe production. You know how you're at the stage of life, many of you who are mothers who stay home and make all the meals, you don't even have to get out the teaspoon to add salt. You know about how much salt goes in a stew. You know how much oregano goes in your spaghetti sauce. You're not always thinking about it. And when you read a recipe, you can kind of tell if you're going to like the taste of it or not. Well, that's fluency in recipe reading. Now, when I was newly married, I had never used recipes. I sucked at it. I couldn't tell if a recipe was going to turn out good or not. I had no idea. I had to test it to find out. And I bought one of those books like Fanny Farmer, where it shows you how to debone a chicken and it explains to you flavor complements. Because all of that was foreign to me. Now, 30 years into cooking, oh my gosh, I hardly ever use a cookbook, and I know basically which ingredients I love and which ones I don't. And my lentils are always the right texture, and my rice never burns, because I've done those thousands of hours of practice, and I've become a proficient recipe reader. But could I go on the Great British Bake Off? Am I Emile Lagasse, however you say his name? No. I still turn to recipes when I want to challenge myself or expand what I'm good at. I depend on other people interpreting cooking for me. I am not PhD level cook, chef, baker. Are you hearing me? Are you starting to see what I mean about writing? Any questions as we're talking here? The bottom line is this. Every field has a rich system of notation and vocabulary. And as we teach writing, we do not want to hive it off and treat it like it's its own subject and has nothing to do with the rest of the school subjects that you usually teach. Writing is a part of math, science, geography, history, political theory, online gaming. It's a part of it because it is inherent to the value set of those subjects. You cannot do a math problem without using a pencil. That is how you write math. That is the literacy that you must learn. What is a plus sign? What is an equal sign? What is a division sign? And as you teach the higher levels of math, you are asking your children to grow in mathematic literacy. And that is the same for the scientific method, for drawing a map, for being able to read music. It's all the same. So as you go forth into this week, I just want you to pay attention. See what literacies are naturally showing up and how you can encourage and validate and narrate back to your children their amazing writing skills. It's not just about free writing and essays. It's about mastering a vocabulary and learning to express it in recognizable transcription. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Julie Bogart from Brave Writer. Live honestly, write bravely. Bye, everybody.